Folks, California Governor Gavin Newsom has been on one lately. He wants everyone to know that despite record homelessness, crime, taxes, regulations, and the occasional rolling blackout, things in California are just peachy. He got especially amped up when the RNC held its meeting at the Waldorf in LA. And of all the Republican states led by Republican governors, of course, he chooses to direct the majority of his attention to Florida and Ron DeSantis for two very apparent reasons. One, Californians and their businesses are fleeing to Florida, and two, he's already positioning himself to be the Democrat candidate in 2024, and he knows Ron DeSantis, not Trump, not Nikki Haley, and certainly not Mike Pence, will be his biggest competition. I would not be surprised if Gavin had cutouts of Ron taped up all over his room. The obsession, the DDS, DeSantis derangement syndrome, is real. Gavin likely wants to be Ron, but at least publicly he just wants to beat him to the Oval Office. As for good old Classified Joe, if you could see Gavin's face in this photo, you'd almost certainly see him scoping the nearest cliff to help Joe over. Now, Gavin's strategy is a little unconventional. He's trying to be Mr. Freedom when it comes to unfettered abortions and illegal immigration, drag queens, and transgender operations for kids, but not so much when it comes to the First Amendment, Second Amendment, school choice, or doctors who speak out about vaccines and COVID. It's an odd approach if you've not lived in California, but if you have, you know this is the run of show in that godforsaken state. But a word of warning. Every bad idea originates in California. California is the Wuhan lab of bad public policy, tyranny, voter fraud, and ideological delusion. Gavin is already getting his hair gel ready to take all those things nationwide come 2024, and I welcome it. Let's just not be dumb enough on the Republican side to miss the mark. Question is, do you want your America to look more like California or Florida? My next guest might be the wife of one of the GOP's brightest rising stars, Congressman Byron Donalds, a friend of this show. But make no mistake, she is a powerhouse in her own right and on a mission to bring education freedom to American students. Joining me now is CEO of the Optima Foundation and the wife of Congressman Byron Donalds, Erica Donalds. Erica, it is so great to talk to you, and let me tell you, we are such a fan of your husband on this show. He's always so gracious to spend a lot of time talking about the important issues with me, so thank you for sharing him with this show.
Oh, I'm happy to share him with America. I'm really proud of all that he is doing for all of us, but also really happy to be here with you, Tomi. I'm honored to be on your show.
So I want to talk about some important issues like school choice, which I know that you are such an advocate for, and freedom and education. But first, I have to ask you, when all of that was happening, when they were voting for speaker and your husband's name was being tossed around, what were your thoughts on that? Did you expect that? Did Congressman Donalds expect that? Because that must have been a whirlwind for your family.
It definitely was. We did not expect it at all. My boys and I were watching the process and we saw that he got one vote on the first day. We were so excited. We're like, wow, Dad got one vote for Speaker of the House. That's historic. It's amazing. Next thing you know, he's being nominated for Speaker. Chip Roy did that amazing speech, which made me cry. And he was off to the races and really just raised his profile, was able to make a difference in the negotiations. And my boys and I followed the entire thing. It was very exciting, but we're happy with what the Freedom Caucus members were able to get out of the negotiations and just proud that Byron was able to be a part of it.
Well, he is such a rising star in this party, in this movement. We're so happy to have him fighting on behalf of Americans. I know in Florida, you guys are very lucky with a lot of fantastic leaders. But of course, as soon as his name was tossed around, there were so many racist and vile attacks that came his way, not only from members of the media, but his colleagues like Cori Bush in the House, which said, you know, his nomination is not historic. He still advocates for a white supremacist agenda. And I know that after that, your family did receive other attacks. Tell me what that was like and how you guys responded and discussed it as a family.
Yeah, and this has happened for years. When you have a conservative, a Black Republican, you get attacks from the left because they want to minimalize his belief system, right? They want to say that he's being a Republican because he gets attention for being Black, or they've elevated him because of the color of his skin so they can have this token Black person. But if you know Byron, as I do, we've been married for almost 20 years, and the community that we've lived in for all of that time, it is a true principled belief that he has, that he came to on his own by reading John Locke and the Law, Bastiat. he came to his own conservative values and he's able to articulate those, but they really want to minimize him and try to act like it's only because of the color of his skin. We know differently. And I was happy to start to call out some of those racist attacks, both against him and against me.
Yeah, they see him as a threat, and they should, because he is going to be a threat to the left, a threat to Democrats, a threat to tyranny, and we're happy to see it, and we're happy to have him fighting on our side. And I know that you are no stranger to the fight as well, and I know one of the issues you are very passionate about is school choice and education freedom. To me, that's such a winning issue for Republicans. It boggles my mind that Democrats and leftists are against school choice and the betterment of education for all students. But why do you think, and how do you think, Republicans can elevate this issue into a winning issue for us for elections to come?
That's a great question. I feel like we're on that trajectory. I was actually on the school board here in our community in 2014. I served 4 years and I found out that that is not the way to have a positive effect on children. Instead, I think growing competition and a free market in education is what's really going to reform the system and create more quality options for families. So that's what I've been working on for the past 8 years, trying to create quality options and make sure families have those options. We're really fortunate in Florida, and Governor DeSantis leading the way to expand education choice to every single family, regardless of income or zip code. I think that these education savings accounts, if they're supported by Republicans across the country, and that's what we're seeing, are going to give rise to education innovations, to choices, and to the free market principles that we see in action every other area. You're going to see an increase in accessibility of quality education and quality for all families.
Yeah, I don't know how Democrats rationalize anti-school choice, that certain people, because of their zip codes, should go to lesser schools and receive a lesser education. But I think we all know the reason for that is the almighty teachers union, who contribute 94% of their political action funds to Democrats. Of course, these teachers unions, they're a big threat to our children. They're a big threat to academia as a whole. And I know that in Florida, your governor fights them. I know that your governor is one of the governors that really has stood up for students above political action and all these other things that have an influence. But I wonder how we bring that nationwide to other states that maybe don't have a governor like Ron DeSantis. How do we fight the teachers unions in other states?
Yeah, competition is going to be the battle against the teachers unions. And we're seeing, even in states that don't have the same strength that Governor DeSantis has to do things like paycheck protection, where districts are no longer going to be able to take union dues out of paychecks. We're seeing parents rise up. Look at Virginia. Virginia is not a red state, and they didn't have a red governor at the time when Moms for Liberty and other like groups rose up and made changes at the local level in their school boards, in their school districts, and demanded change. And that's the type of grassroots that we really need to see across the nation. It's what's going to bring new policies to bear, and it's what's going to turn Democrats who want to win elections over to the side of school choice, because it is a winning issue on both sides of the aisle.
It absolutely is. And if Republicans message it correctly, it can certainly be a winning issue and a feather in our cap. Last question for you, and I asked your husband this several weeks ago, but I have to ask you as well, because you guys are in an interesting position. You're in Florida with a fantastic governor. I know that your husband is a big supporter as well of Donald Trump, but there's a lot of discussions that those two are going to go head to head in 2024. We know that we don't have an announcement yet from Ron DeSantis. We're anxiously awaiting one. Those of us on the conservative side would love to see him announce, but I have to ask you, if push comes to shove and it is Trump versus DeSantis, which way does the Donalds family align? And maybe you guys are divided on that. I don't know.
We are not divided, and we haven't made a decision about that yet. It's not something we're going to get into. There's only one candidate for president right now. That's Donald J. Trump, our president. We're very proud of what he did as the president of the United States. We're always very supportive of Donald Trump. But as you know, I'm one of mamas for DeSantis. I've been working really hard for his reelection as governor, and I'm constantly supporting his agenda as governor. There's nothing that I want to do to jeopardize either one of their successes, because I think they're both doing amazing things for our country. So when the time comes and the competition gets heated up and actually is a head-to-head competition, of course, we'll have to make a decision at that point. But right now, it's easy enough. We get to support both of them and what they're doing for our country, and they're both amazing.
We're very lucky that we have two wonderful candidates. I don't know what they have on the other side, but it's not looking good. Erica, thanks so much for spending the time with us. We certainly appreciated everything that you're doing in Florida and all the advocacy work that you do, especially for education and education freedom. And you're welcome back anytime. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.